Welcome to the Ghostly Gallery podcast, a place where we explore the world of horror in film, literature, and popular culture. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. My name is Bruce Markison, and as always, I'm joined by our producer and co-host, Tracy Asteria. Tracy, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Bruce. How are you tonight?
Good. A little cold here. Some snow on the ground. It's, you say 10 degrees below Celsius where you are. I have no idea how that translates into Fahrenheit, but it does sound pretty cold. Yeah. So that's going to make us a little more jealous of our two guests. They're in Southern California. They're enjoying a little more temperate weather in Los Angeles. We're going to have some fun on this show, as we always try to. We're going to venture into the world of contemporary filmmaking with two people involved in the 2019 film 1BR. And for those who might not be familiar with that abbreviation, basically stands for one bedroom apartment. But the title of the movie is 1BR. We're very glad to have with us two guests. One of them is one of the film's producers and an executive with Malevolent Films, Alok Mishra. And also joining us, one of the film's cast members, Naomi Grossman, who has also appeared in 3 seasons of American Horror Story, including 2 seasons as the iconic character of Pepper. Welcome, Naomi, and welcome, Alok. Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is going to be a great
For those who have not seen the film, we're going to give you just a quick storyline. Don't want to give away too much for those who haven't seen the movie. I've seen it only 3 times at this point, but others maybe have not seen it at all. It's based on a central character, Sarah, a young woman trying to get her life straightened out. She seeks a fresh start in Los Angeles and is fortunate to find this seemingly ideal apartment building, but the neighbors and the situation are not exactly what they seem. Alok, I wanted to begin by asking you about how this movie, 1BR, came to be made. Who approached you about it? What was it about the script that you really liked?
Well, our other producers on the project are our writer-director, David Marmer's managers, Allard Cantor and Jared Murray. And so those two guys, it just turned out that my ex-wife went to high school with Allard, and we had one of those like douchebag lunches that you have in Los Angeles, where you sit and you talk about what you're working on, and send me some scripts, I said, and he sent me 2 scripts, which I proceeded to never read for 6 months. One of which was 1BR. And because and truth be told, in my own defense, I had another project that was about to go like into pre-production, or we were more concerned about. And so like, and you're a 1 or 2 man sort of gang, as our production company, Malevolent Films is. My producing partner is Shane Borster. You don't have a lot of assistants and money, and you're just like, well, I'll read it when I get to it, and I just never got to it for 6 months. And that project fell through. So I was like, I got to find something, scrambling like crazy, and I read both the scripts, and one of which was 1BR was one of them. The other one was a movie called Tragedy Girls, which is a terrific film directed by Tyler McIntyre, who just recently It's a Wonderful Knife. If you heard of that film, just came out actually.
Interesting.
But Tragedy Girls, terrific film. I'm a terrible person sometimes with actors' names, but the girl that plays a teenage negatonic teenager in like Deadpool, and the young lady who was the love interest in the first Spider-Man Homecoming movie, and she was also in BlacKkKlansman as well. Like they're the 2 lead ladies of that movie, and they're basically 2 girls that are they kidnap a serial killer, and they're trying to have him train them to kill people. And it's a horror comedy. Craig Robinson is also in it from The Office, and Josh Hunterson from, I guess, this crazy Freddy movie, this Five Nights at Freddy, which I don't understand how that's the highest grossing Blumhouse movie ever, by the way. I don't get it. Like how is Sinister or not Get Out, but that movie But I guess it has a big video game following and the kids love it. So
It
whatever it
does.
is, I mean, so I don't know what's what, but I just wasn't very satisfied myself. Anyway, I used to test movies for a living. I did market research for film for 18 years. So I have a very I don't know, measured sort of response to certain things. And I'm just like, I can understand how to market something, but certain things I'm just like, I throw my hands up. I don't get it. But long story short, that's how we came across the script. And I met with David Marmer, and we got along like two peas in a pod. Like we had kind of the same sensibilities. And I was like, man, this is a great script. And in fact, it was even better than what we actually were able to shoot because we didn't have the money, frankly. We had to cut things out of it that we didn't want to cut out of it. And so it was a very, very low budget film. I mean, we're talking about SAG ultra low budget, as they say, which is about, $300,000, let's call it. And, we had no money. We had no time. We shot the thing in 15 days. And then we realized we needed to go back and do some reshoots. And then that sucked because we couldn't get, Naomi, working actress, nominated for an Emmy the year we needed to come. We shot it in 2017, the December of 2017. And basically, August 2018 was when we could get the band back together, so to speak. And it was right then that Naomi Grossman was nominated for a Emmy. And she was just like, I could be going. It was the week of the Emmys where we had to shoot that week for some reason. And we're like, Naomi, can you come back and do our shitty little movie? And she's like, oh, I'll do it. I'll do your shitty little movie, Mishra. And I've known Naomi for 20 something years at least, so we were old friends. So she came back, of course, did it. But she was like, she could have been going to gifting suites and getting trips to Barbados and all this shit. And she just came back and did it anyway. So we shot another 4 days.
I never have been to Barbados.
Oh, no.
She says wistfully, looking afar off, look in her eye. But look, it was another 4 days shooting. So sum total was 19 days altogether of shooting. And even then, when we shot in 2018, we didn't actually then premiere until July of 2019 at Fantasia. So this thing, lives with you. And it's still living with us. It's, 2023. We're still doing interviews for this fucking movie. But it's great. I mean, look, we never say no. And I may have allegedly mortgaged an already paid off house to put my portion in for the movie. So, we want to see that money back and more so, let's say. I got kids to feed and stuff. So, so that's I think I've answered your question in a very roundabout long way. Sorry if it was too long.
Oh gosh, that was awesome.
You mentioned
together a really great ensemble of cast members. I'm curious, how did you get so many great cast? Like Naomi, amazing.
Naomi,
well, I can tell you. Alok's correct in that we've been very good friends for a very long time. He was one of my first friends when I moved out to LA when I was Sarah, basically living in a crappy 1BR, a Spanish style with a courtyard and creepy neighbors. That was 25 years ago. And, which is amazing. And he came to me with the role, or not even. He just came to me with the script because, he trusts me as a friend. And it's only since our friendship that I've come to be in the world of horror. And so he presented to me and said, what do you think? And of course I loved it because it's very well written. And that's really all that matters, quite honestly. If the blueprints don't hold, the house is not going to stand. So, and these prints held. So, I was in, then I don't know, 9 months later, I get a call from my agent with an audition. And I'm like, audition? You mean I'm not I've auditioned for my own best friend? But anyway, it was just a formality. He needed to meet David Marmer, and that makes total sense. And it's true. He likes to remind me, it's not normal for the actors to go to drinks with the producers afterwards. You had the role, but I didn't necessarily know that. And the funny thing is, Alok we've played a mean game of Trivial Pursuit, late night drunken Trivial Pursuit for years and years and years. And his sort of tricks is he will read, his question. You may know the answer to the question, but you won't know it when he's done reading it because he'll read in such a jacked up way that you have no idea what he's just said.
I mean, if you're reading, if you're reading like William Shatner, like what is this? Whatever. It's like
poetry. And anyway, so
no rule against that. By the way, there's no rule against that. Just FYI.
So there's not, but also. This is not late night drunken Trivial Pursuit. This is me trying to get a job in your movie. So, like, why are you trying to stop me?
You already had it. You already had it. It was
well, again. The fact is, it was a low budget movie. He had mortgaged an already paid off house, allegedly, to do this. So he was his own reader. Normally you'd have a casting person who might have an assistant or whatnot reading for you, but in this case, it was Alok. And anyway, it was just. I was very grateful to have gotten the job after this rigorous, process he put me through.
You don't have a lot of money. You got to do what you got to do. But she had the part. It was just to put her in front of David. In fact, I think we looked at her for another part in addition to that to see maybe she'd be more appropriate. So it was just a put on. It was a put on.
And he said, but he, again, he doesn't know how to talk to actors. Like the fact is, he said to me, "So read this script and do you see yourself in any roles?" And of course, as an actor, I see myself in all the roles. Like I do one woman shows. Yes, I'm Sarah. I'm Taylor Nichols' character. I'm Mrs. I'm all the parts. And especially given my background as a character actor, yes, I can play a pinhead in an asylum with a bald head and with the brain capacity of a 4-year-old. Like, sure, I can play a little old lady being killed off by a cult. Of course, I can play her, the male cult leader. Like, what? Like,
well,
give me a prosthetic penis. Why not?
In answer to your question, Naomi is an old friend. I cast her very early on. And then secondly, Taylor Nichols, I had just met at a party, and I fucking love Whit Stillman films. Like Metropolitan I'm a huge fan of that. I love horror movies, don't get me wrong, but that movie just was very sort of formative for me as a youth, let's say. I remember I went to USC. I wasn't a film major. I was a psychobio major, actually. But I go to the film library so much that if a film major needed the station, they wouldn't kick me off because they're just, it's Alok, you can't kick him off. He's here all the time. It's like, so I would watch like Metropolitan I saw in the film library, and I just loved that movie. And it's so funny. Like I've run into 3 of the main actors in that movie over my life, like in different weird places, like a chip shop in Brooklyn. Like, Taylor at a party. And I was like, I gotta tell you something, Taylor. Like, girls, I got a poster in Metropolitan in my house, in my garage. It's in my garage. But but he was just like, seriously, you have a poster? I'm like, yeah, I do. So years later, I call him, like 2 years later, I want to say, after I met him at this party and met an impression, I was like, Taylor Nichols, I have a role for you now. And he's like, what? And I'm like, you're going to be the cult leader. I know you don't usually play a villain, but I see you in it, and it could be very good. And so actually he was, besides Naomi, like the first person to sign off. And then we accrued other crew, but shocker, 3 days before it was to shoot, we lost all 3 of our main leads. So the Sarah character, the Brian character, and the Miss Stanhope character, all gone. I
couldn't play them. I told him, put me in, coach.
Yeah, exactly. But the Monday before that, we had many disasters before this production. This was one of them. This is probably the worst one though. But this was basically the Monday before the Thursday we're shooting. The young lady we had cast in the Sarah role was very she was a bigger TV actress, let's say. I can't say who she was because of libel, as they say. But I'm told by lawyers never to talk about it. But I always just say this. She required something in her writer, which was this fucking feminine. Sorry, can I curse? I'm sorry if I'm cursing. But feminine energy drink. Whatever. And it only existed at this one highfalutin market in Los Angeles, this Gelson's market in Marina del Rey. of all the Gelsons, this is the one that had it, and I had to drive across town to get it because, again, we don't have any money, and we're like, you don't have the minions to do these like kind of things, whatever. So myself, and my producer partner drove across town to get this drink.
Casting director assistant.
We didn't even have that, right? So
Right.
you can tell that this is not a rich production. But we had actually talked to the, and this is the reason I won't mention the feminine energy drink, because they were lovely.
Mhm.
They sent us a whole pallet from the floor to the roof of cases of this stuff, but it wasn't going to get
my
there.
gosh.
It wasn't going to get there until like 3 days into production. So we were like, we got to go get this girl some stuff and like a case. I mean, at least a case or two of it, like just to make sure we have enough. And so we went over there.
Mhm.
And while we're in this Gelson's, and while I found one case of it, I've asked the manager to go back and look for another case of it. And he's like, I don't think we have any. I'm like, can you check? And he's like, okay. So he goes and checks. And while we're waiting for him to check, her agent calls this lady, and they tell us she's out. No reason given. She's already signed contracts, but they're like, "You gonna sue us?" Or we're like, "No, I'm not gonna sue you. Like, of a $300,000 movie, I'm not gonna spend my money to go sue you. So, not gonna sue her." Then, in addition to that, and this is a good filmmaking rule, is that you never hire the friend, quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes, or boyfriend of said actress, because that's what we did. And he was some douchebag on some like CW vampire show that I've never like heard of or watched or whatever, but I know it exists. And I'm like, well, if it's good enough for the CW, he's good enough for us, But hiring these two people like would already put us in the black. And I was like, and being a greedy, money grubbing producer, like I was like, we had to do it. And David Marmer, like, he's our writer director. God bless him. He was just like, no, Nicole's the right one. And we're like, screw you, Marmer. Gun to your head. We need to make this movie, make money, And so he was just like, fine. And we flew him up to like wherever she was shooting her shitty Buffy the Vampire Slayer knockoff. And like 3 times he flew up to practice, right, with her. And he was finally comfortable with her. And we were like, okay, good at that. And then fast forward to like this fucking scene in the Gelsons in Marina Del Rey where she has dropped out. And now her boyfriend has dropped out too. And now we're like, we are fucked. Like, I may have allegedly mortgaged and already paid off house to make this movie. So like we go to the bar next door, the Yard House, and we just like start having a beer and just like, okay, let's just settle down. Let's figure this out. It's all going to be okay. And then we get a call that the woman playing Miss Stanhope, her husband has collapsed, rushed to the hospital. He's dead. And now we're like, she's out too. So we're like, what the fuck are we going to do? So we just start like going into panic mode and start like making calls and whatever else. We talk to Nicole and her people. She could get out by Friday of that week. We were supposed to start on Thursday. This is a Monday. Supposed to start on Thursday. Move everything back to the next Monday. Now we get Nicole, I think, the next day. And she's not going to come out until Friday, though. She can't come out. And she gets 2 hours to rehearse with David Marmer. That's it. Right. And she just did all of that because she's amazing. She's an amazing, amazing actress. Fast forward to Friday, we're sitting there. We don't have the Stanhope character. We don't have the Brian character. And we are just calling. We're sitting now at 7:00 at night. We're sitting at Barney's Beanery drinking again. You can see a pattern here, I'm sure. But the point is, we're sitting there, and then we get a call from Gersh. And finally, we get Giles Maddock. He's in. And we're like, we had given him an offer in the morning. We're like, where the hell is this guy? Why didn't he say yes, like earlier or something? We're freaking out. And it's because he was like driving back down from San Francisco to Santa Barbara, and he just read his part on his phone, and that was it. And I was kind of insulted they didn't read the whole thing. But then Naomi told me that actors often just read their part because they just want to make sure it's not a snuff film or a porn. So we learned that lesson. And then actually, I misspoke. Earlier in the morning, I had gotten a bunch of reels from older lady actresses, and one of them was Susan Davis, and she was like the mom on like War Games. She's an old pro. She's like, oh gosh, I'm gonna mix it up here. I'm forgetting now. He directed Ronin. He's a very famous like director. She's his cousin, actually. I'll come up with it in a second. Give me a second. But the Robert De Niro Ronin movie, if you remember the director for that, he's a huge famous director. I'm sorry, I can't remember right now. But the thing of it is that Susan Davis sent us her reel, or we thought it was our manager. And at the end of the reel, there's a phone number. I call the phone number. She picks up the phone, and I'm like, I thought it was gonna be our manager or agent. It's not. It's her. So I'm like, this is highly inappropriate. I'm just gonna pitch you the movie, and I'll pitch you us. And she was like, I've never been in like a cult movie before. This sounds great. This is at 9:30 in the morning. By 11:30, we signed her. So basically, we got everybody together on that Friday before the Monday we were gonna shoot, and just like hope to God they would all show up was the thing. So
Oh, wow.
it all worked out. But like that was one of like 3 disasters that befell the production that could have just sidelined the whole thing. So it all happened.
You thought that was the biggest drama when, again, I could have easily played all the parts. This production literally had their production truck stolen. Like literally everything, like one of those massive production vehicles with all the equipment taken and driven by some, as it turns out, very handsome felon on the 405 and being chased
it was a televised high,
like, that's a much bigger deal, especially when I could have easily bailed this whole thing out.
I mean, it was a televised high-speed chase, actually, which if you see some of that and the arrest that the actual arrest where the LAPD have cornered this guy, Donald/Chevron station, and they're pulling him out of the truck very nicely, by the way, because he was very handsome, we thought. And we were like, where did his life go wrong, and the whole thing. And like, that was really the funniest thing. It was John Frankenheimer, by the way, was the director that Susan Davis, Susan Davis's cousin. And he made her because he was like, look, none of these broads can act. You're coming out from Kansas. You're great. And so she came out. She's a huge character actor. She was on like the Rockford Files. She was on like a ton of like shows, and the Mom in War Games, for example.
Right.
And the dad who plays Sarah's dad is also in War Games as well, actually.
Oh, interesting.
Alan Blumenfeld is also, he's a huge character actor as well. He's been in like a billion things, and so yeah.
You know what? It all worked out, and it was absolutely a spectacular ensemble. I'm telling you, like, everybody did such a great job.
I mean, Nicole Bryden-Bloom, who's on the Gilded Age right now, by the way, and also Naomi Grossman over here, who just debuted yesterday on not
yesterday, today.
Oh, sorry, today. Sorry, it was at midnight. It was midnight. Oh, it felt like it was yesterday. The show Obliterated, which is by the guys that did Harold and Kumar, and also, of course, Cobra Kai. It's an action comedy show. I've actually watched the first 2 episodes. Number 2 episode starring Miss Naomi Grossman right there, and she is great in it.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen anything. Can you say anything? I know it's a little bit of a departure from 1BR, but
it's very funny. She's humping a secret agent. They're in a male strip club. And she basically, her friend says, like, oh, look, you should come over here and give this girl a dance. He's like, I'm not a dancer. You're coming over here and giving her a dance. And she's like, I'm newly divorced. And he's like, I'm happy for your failed marriage or something. And then she just sets upon him. And she's like, I'm going to ride you, cowboy, and all this good stuff. And it's really fun. So it's good stuff. Okay. I mean, I
guess it's already too late because we are already talking about it publicly, but it's something I can tell people about, and I don't need to be like embarrassed by.
I feel like it's hilarious, and he throws you against the wall pretty hard, actually. So yeah, I was actually surprised you like didn't have a stunt double for that. I was surprised, but anyway, so I just literally saw this like this morning, so it was good stuff.
And I haven't seen it yet. So that's why I'm waiting with bated breath to hear, because, again, it's tricky. It's a smaller role. So I don't want to misspeak. I don't want to be like shouting it from the rooftops. And then as it turns out, I'm written out or something, so.
Oh my goodness.
Well, she's in that. Nicole is in the Gilded Age, actually. Nicole Bryden-Bloom is in the Gilded Age. And she's on like every week on that show and stuff. It's crazy. Like, she is like a big part. And I've done a deep dive into like Facebook groups, and there's like, I mean, I'm a horror guy, so this is tough for me. It's really tough for me to like watch shit. I don't care that you can't get a box in the Metropolitan. Like, this is the problem they deal with at the turn of the century. I mean, like, I think 1890 or something. I don't give a shit. I'm watching it because of her. Sorry. terrible. I really don't. I can't. It's like I want to stab myself in the eye watching this show. Anyway, look, we should talk about this.
Yeah. So, Naomi, when you show up on set and there's all these different actors, they're sort of going on to plan B because 3 actors have left, 3 other actors have taken their place. Did you know any of these people? Had you worked with any of them before?
No, I didn't know any of this story. I mean, I again, I would have offered my services, but no, I didn't know any of the actors coming in. I didn't know any of the actors that they lost. I didn't know that they, fixed all their problems at Barney's Beanery over beers. Had I gotten the memo that everyone was quitting, I wouldn't have quit. But it does seem that I was the only one that didn't see this shit.
Well, I was going to say that the Blu-ray has the Handsome Felon story on it, so you actually can see that on the Blu-ray. If you ever have interest, you can actually. We did an interview at Naomi was saying we didn't tell them anything because we didn't want them to be thinking about this shit. We wanted to be thinking about the movie, and so we didn't tell them when the truck got stolen. We just sent a message out to everybody. We're like, look, we're gonna start an hour late. Everything else is fine. You'll be fine. And we didn't tell them until actually we were at Fantasia premiering, and they showed the video of the guy getting arrested. That was the thing. But that's actually that's on the Blu-ray. So anyway, sorry.
That's all right. So for those who haven't seen the movie, Naomi plays a character named Janice who really takes on a larger role deeper into the film. And you're sort of the keeper, I guess, for the character Sarah. You got to make sure that she stays in line. And you're pretty hard on Sarah, as the script calls you to be. I'm always curious when talking to actors in horror roles, do you like roles like this that are a little bit more villainous and hardened and sinister? Do you get a kick out of that?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. As a child, those were the roles I wanted. I wanted to play the evil stepmom or when we were playing house, it wasn't okay to just be in a happy home. I wanted to be like Cruella de Vil, So yeah, I've always, I given the choice, antagonist, protagonist, I will always go for the antagonist person. Yeah. I mean, at the end, I've also matured now, you and since Taylor, then. I'm all about just a full character, someone who's multifaceted and complex. I mean, because let's face it, no one's just evil. No one's, even, I mean, the most horrible of villains, there's got to be some redemptive quality about them, at least Hannibal Lecter is wonderfully cultured and knows music and art, so, right. And even then, he doesn't necessarily think what he's doing is wrong. I think in the case of Janice, she's just trying to raise a family. She just wants her daughter to live in a place with discipline and rules, and there's a way to do things, and that's so it's not that she's just evil,
Yeah. A lot of the actors going into this movie very inexperienced. You and Taylor Nichols were 2 of the more experienced actors. By the way, he gives me kind of a William Fichtner vibe. I don't know if anybody else notices that. Maybe you have. Did other actors come to you and Taylor for advice? Did you feel like you were leaders? Does that happen on set?
No, they didn't come to me. Okay. Maybe they came to Taylor. Listen, movie making is, it's not theater. You're not, in the case of, when I say that, I mean, theater, you're living with each other and the role and the play and the director, and you have months and months and months on end to kind of really explore together. Whereas film and TV, you're like, oh, hi, who, making out now? Okay. You know what I mean? It's fast, furious. And sometimes you're being introduced to the director minutes before he's calling action. So, you kind of, you just take for granted everybody knows what they're doing, and And sometimes they don't. But you gotta, I guess, it is what it is.
Well, Giles Matty was also very experienced as well. He had been on True Blood and Ever After and 24, the one that didn't have Kiefer Sutherland. And and him and Taylor, it was very family oriented in a lot of ways, because even after the film, we all went to Fantasia together, and like even we still do podcasts, and like I'm trying to get together. I had a beer with like Giles Matty, who's like he's here from the UK. Giles, by the way, is British. So his American accent, like when he does Brian or whatever, he'd just do the American accent, and all of a sudden he's just like, was that good? Was that good? Like we're like, yeah, that's great. Whatever. And so like I had beers with him a couple of weeks ago, and then Taylor got jealous, and he's like, I want to have beers. Why do you have to have beers with that hack? Because they always talk shit with each other through me, rather. And like so Giles is in Ford versus Ferrari, and Taylor was like, hey, listen, tell Giles that much like the cars that were so fast in that movie, I like literally blinked and I missed Giles in the movie because it was so fast. It was crazy, It's like, so like, we go back and forth. Like it's a whole thing. He likes a certain football team in England, and Taylor will be like, "Hey, why did your team shit the bed?" Like, I'm not done. So it's a fun back and forth. We're gonna get together for beers, all of us, very soon. Yeah. Also with Clayton Hoff, actually, Clayton Hoff, who plays Lester, who's amazing. It was another friend we cast, actually. Very, interestingly, like very last minute, him in and stuff. It was just like he's a friend who was never on Facebook, right? We're casting for the role, and he gets married to this beautiful Brazilian lady. And finally, he posts a picture on Facebook, and I'm like, oh my God, that's fucking Lester. He's got to read for this. I don't even know why I didn't think of him, but he's never on Facebook. So he came in and read just because I saw his wedding picture on like Facebook and stuff. So he got very lucky and got the role. And in fact, he was just like, I don't know if I have time. I'm going on my honeymoon. I got like this class I paid for, this acting class I paid for. And I'm like, fuck all that shit. You need to fucking read for this. So he did. And he got the role. And we called him. He was in New Orleans for his wedding. His honeymoon. And he's like dancing on like Frenchman Street or something. And like we was like, Facebook him, and we're like, hey, you got it. And he's like, yeah. So it was great. Like, I mean, it was like a kismet, if you will,
This is probably why Alok's been divorced twice and Clayton's been married once. Is happily married.
Yeah. Look, you can't win them all. Let's
through your honeymoon.
Come on, put yourself. Yeah, that's works the work, honey. It works the work.
It's true.
Well, I'll tell you, Clayton is great in the movie because he starts out, he's very creepy, and then he starts to open up a little bit. Then he gets creepy again, and then toward the very end, he kind of shows the good side, and he's one of the few people that does that. And then you also mentioned Giles Matty. I thought he was outstanding because he goes from one end of the spectrum to the other. Not only does he seem like two different characters, but he goes from being this boy next door that Sarah is really interested in, attracted to. He's very nice. And then later on, he's probably the most sinister of all the characters. So I thought both of them were great. Really good.
Yeah.
Well, we were lucky to get him. And obviously Naomi as well. Like, we just like, it was a perfect storm of something that came together, thankfully.
I mean, thank you, but you were really lucky to get me during those gifting suites, because the fact is, not only could I have been scoring myself a trip to Barbados, but they told me this bunch of bull. They said, we squandered you. We realize now we need more Janice in this movie. That's what's missing. That's what, in movies for a living for 18 years. And this is what I know. I've come to all this journey of my career has led me to this aha moment. We need more Janice. And sure enough, I took the bait and I came back. I came back for more. And guess what? They still squandered me.
We needed more Janice. We needed more cowbell. I don't know. We needed a lot.
They needed more, but they didn't take it. I mean, they had it, but yeah. Janice is basically akin to cowbell. Yeah.
I was asking,
But
is there an extended cut where
there
there's more of Janice in the movie?
yeah, there is an extended cut of the movie. I don't necessarily know that it contains more Janice in it, but it contains more other things that are very interesting that a whole storyline that we cut out of it that could have been quite cool.
Yeah.
But they our sadly our distributor didn't want to do like a very heavy Blu-ray. And to be fair, for independent filmmakers, you don't make a lot off the Blu-ray. It's great, it's great that I love physical media, like who doesn't?
Mhm.
But I think that when the sequel comes out, hopefully they'll let us go back in because we have all the stuff and go in and sort of make a better, deeper, richer cut of the first movie. I mean, just at least deleted scenes or something in that regard. And we can also do like commentary. Like, I mean, there's so many stories, right? We're telling you some stories right here, which we like hilarious to tell like on that, so yeah. So I guess the answer is yes, there is more footage, but I don't know that necessarily there is more Janice. But we know that Janice didn't.
No, there's a lot of Janice sitting in her trailer, which we don't see. There was a lot of that.
It's true. It's true. But at least Janice had a trailer. Okay, at least Janice had a trailer. Anyway, the point is this too.
Janice does not have.
Look, I can't.
She does not have a trip to Barbados.
I can't tell. Well, she doesn't have that, but I can tell you, Janice isn't dead, and we don't know what's going to happen in the sequel, and we're not going to say a goddamn thing about it. We can't. But just so you know, Janice isn't dead, so we can't, say anything. But who knows?
I was actually promised a sex scene with this handsome felon, like as part of the retribution or whatever kind of deal that they
restitution. It's called.
That's what I meant. Reproduction. I mean, no. Something like that. I was told that you guys struck some sort of plea deal with.
Look, I don't know what happened with it, but I in my mind, in my fantasy,
and that maybe he might act as my.
He cost us about $3,000, I want to say, in terms of the I don't know what is it called, the insurance, the I forget what it's called, but the point is that I have this fantasy in my head where he's either my monkey butler for the second movie, or if he is that handsome, he's probably an actor who's out of work who fell on hard times. Then we could like get him to work for free and just say, look, you got to work your, time off for us for this, deductible that I had to pay for the insurance for this bullshit, car ride that you destroyed the engine of this truck trying to go fast all over next to USC and stuff like this, next to the Felix sign, the iconic Felix sign, if you remember that at all. Like, that's where he was wrecking the truck and this and that. Anyway, so that's what I hope the case is, but we don't, I can hope in vain. It's probably not going to happen, so. But anyway, and Naomi can hope in vain too for her.
So, Alok, is there definitely going to be a sequel?
100%. The script is written.
There's definitely going to be a sequel.
Casting, 100%.
Nice.
We are casting. We are going to. It's going to be. I always say this: if the first one was Alien, the second one is Aliens. And that's all I can tell you.
Okay.
Like, it's a bigger scope. It's a bigger world. It's a much bigger budget. And I can tell you this, I mean, I hope you would want to, having watched it 3 times, I'd hope you want to see it in the theater because it's going to be in the theater is the idea.
Wow.
So that's what we want to do.
Do you have a proposed release date? We're
waiting on casting right now. And so that's going to determine actually when we shoot. We'll get some stuff in the very beginning of the new year.
So look, there's definitely going to be a sequel. Certainly the way that the first movie ended left the door open for that. So there's no question. Sequel is coming. You don't know exactly when, but hopefully in the near future.
My hope is to have it out by January of 2025, but it's all dependent upon our actual casting. We're casting. I can't say much more about it. I want to, but I think it's better. J.J. Abrams does this the best. Like, what's in the box? You'll pay to see what's in the box. So right, I'd rather do it that way, and you guys be really surprised. And when the trailer comes out, 2 or 3 months before the release, you'll learn where it's going a little bit, and we don't usually give everything away, even in the original trailer. If you ever watch that, it's cut in such a way it really doesn't give a lot away. And in fact, it got nominated for a Golden Trailer Award, and we lost to the Joker. I mean, we were never going to beat the Joker, but like at least we got to that point. And as far as an independent film, it was a great cut trailer. And I used to, work in that industry in terms of like testing movies and like also testing trailers. So I knew we don't want to give a lot away. So the second one will be very interesting. I will say this too. If people are listening to this, hopefully they watched the film already. I mean, please, I hope because we've been spoiling the shit out of it. But if you haven't seen the film, it's best to go in without even watching the trailer. People like it so much more not even watching the trailer because it's like they don't know what they're doing. Is it a supernatural thing? Is it whatever it is? So they're kind of thrown, thrown different directions. And then they, once they get into it, it's a tight 90 minutes. Doesn't waste anyone's time. That was very purposeful as well because of how, like the length of it and how it was cut. So, yeah.
Right.
In talking about the original film, you've described it as a lower budget film. Other people have described it that way. But when I'm watching it, it doesn't come across that way. It looks like a larger budget film. I don't know if it's the music or the camera work or the slow motion, but it kind of overachieves in terms of its presentation. How do you think you guys were able to achieve that?
Well, everything you just said, like the cinematographer is amazing, David Boland. And this guy did our movie. Like he was already kind of on his way, but this guy directs like Black Lotus videos now and Kendrick Lamar videos and stuff. And like, shot like, I don't know how many #1 shows. Like he shoots in India, he shoots wherever. And it's like, he has like, I think 4 #1 shows that have been on Netflix now, including ours. Like he's a sought after commodity. And Ronen Landa, who did the music, is like, this guy works like crazy as well. Like he's on like every Amazon show. And like, I mean, he is super talented. And, the funny thing is that like how it looks, how it sounds, so important to making it seem bigger than it is. In addition to that, sound design, my college roommate, friend from high school, Jason George, did all of this. This guy the movies he works on are like, 21 Jump Street, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, Alice in Wonderland. Like he like got us into a sound studio on the weekend. Like we snuck in like the Sony, right? And Michael Bay had been there the day before, right? And we're in the same sound stage, audio, what is it? The sound cutting stage that Michael Bay is working on the day before, right? And we're sneaking in like 2 weekends in a row to do whatever we got to do, right? So it's like a lot of favors, a lot of whatever, but ultimately those 3 things you said, like that's what makes it seem like it's a more expensive film, even though we didn't have the money, unfortunately. So we got very lucky having friends. Living in California is good for something, right? Naomi Grossman, I know her. Yeah. I know,
Oh my goodness.
It's kind of like what Roger Corman did for years back in the 60s. He was great at low budgets, really low budgets, and he made the film look so much better. Tracy, I know you had a question. Jump right in, please.
Yeah, I was just curious if you wouldn't mind sharing with the listeners and ourselves how you both got started in the industry. Like, how did you know this is what you wanted to do?
I was raised in a very cultured home. My parents were, we were constantly going to the opera and the ballet and the symphony and the theater and the cinema and you name it. And so, I was a real culture vulture and, a avid audience member from a very young age. But I resented that. I wanted to be up there. I didn't want to be sitting in the audience. I wanted to be in the spotlight from a very young age. And so pretty soon I got involved with pretty much as there was to be involved with in Denver, Colorado at the time, children's theater, and eventually I did some, regional commercials and Father Dowling mysteries and kind of anything that there was coming through town, which again wasn't much, but it was very clear from a very young age that I'm a performer. I'm a performer on the Enneagram. I take I see the world as in need of entertainment. And so that's what I'm here to do. And so, yeah, I was just counting down the years to when I could, leave the nest and move to Hollywood.
Oh, wow. Oh,
yeah.
Thank you.
She also went to Northwestern as well. So, I mean, did a very prestigious program over there as well. So, for me, I don't know. I was always into movies as a child. I mean, my parents weren't very helpful with that. It took me a long time to see Star Wars, and it was only until the kid across the street who was younger than me got to see Star Wars. So I was like, that guy's 2 years younger. How did he get to see Star Wars? And my mom was like, Shree is my dad's name. Shree, just take him to see the movie. So once we saw Star Wars, it was all over. As most kids in the 70s, let's say.
Right.
So I saw that, and then, did drama in high school and stuff like that. But then, as having Indian parents, we had to they wanted me to very badly be a doctor. And so I was, psychobio major undergrad and have a master's in neurobio. But I got to the point where I, scored well enough on the MCAT to actually get into med school. And I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. So I started working for a producer, at Fox, and I did that for, about a year, and then discovered this market research job testing movies that actually was kind of there was a bit of science involved with that, actually, in an interesting way. And I just sort of happily or sadly failed upwards to the point that I was going to screenings, pretty much 4 days a week. Every night I'd go to a screening, and I started specializing in horror, mostly. So I was doing Wes Craven's movies and Eli Roth or whoever, the person of the day was. I was like, let me help you, so we would help them, structure. And Jason Blum was a big person actually at the time. That was a very interesting relationship because he was very much about testing, and it was very interesting to see how he structured his films and blah, blah, blah. And I'd known him from Miramax back in the day. So it was, he trusted us very much. Testing a movie, the studios don't trust the filmmakers don't trust the studios. So you're kind of their priest, their rabbi, their confidant, if you will. And so it's a very interesting relationship you have with filmmakers as well as obviously the studio. But definitely, you present the scores and you're like, look, here's what's going over here. The younger females don't like it. We'll dig into the cards, they fill out cards and so forth out there. And we do we test a movie on a Tuesday night. By Wednesday night, we have a 50-page report ready for them. Right. This is all because it's all very needed. It's very salient. They have to see everything. They have to feel, it's a whole thing. And so when you understand things from that perspective, I think that it helps you. Help me later in life really understand. Okay, look, we have this movie. It's a small budget movie, right? And I know it's tested well, it's good. So we don't have fear of going to journalists and whatever else. The movie at present stands at 88% certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, which is very important to me, right? I wanted to have that score because I knew in the future it'd have that score on Peacock. You can see that. You're choosing about different things. You're flipping through things. It has a poster as well, right? So you have to have a really good poster nowadays. You have to have a good trailer too, right? But you see the thumbnail and you're like, what is this about? 88% certified fresh. Perhaps I shall watch this tonight. Or perhaps I shall purchase this or rent this tonight if it's on just, transactional deal. Right? So having that background really helped me understand these things. And this is my life from being loving the movies, being in drama, doing this job. Now I'm a producer, right? So that explains my, evolution, if you will.
But that's really the perfect job for Alok because he has a true passion for cinema, but he's also the most analytical, obsessed with statistics type person I know. I mean, he's really into like cracking codes. And I'll never forget when he called me it was like 5 of midnight or something, and said, "Hey, if I Venmo you $5, will you buy the movie?" And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he decided that he was going to invest like $100
$150, but it was a thing where I wanted
whatever
to
it
see.
is, but I'm trying to make the math easy for me, and so we found like 20 people to buy the movie, and if he could convince those 20 people to all watch and rate or whatever, like
No, it was this.
movie.
It was this. It was to buy the movie. I was trying to basically see what, like, I don't know, 30 or 40 people buying the movie at 11:30 West Coast would do to our Apple ranking in terms of iTunes. We were still on like TVOD with a transactional video on demand where you just buy something because you want to, rent something, whatever. And I was like, I wonder if we're number 3 right now. I wonder if we could move to number 1 by doing this. And I was just like, it'd be good for the future to know that this few people or whatever, or this many people would move at a position, maybe move at 2 positions, let's say. So I was just like, that's a good experiment for $250. Like, I mean, like, let's just see this, So anyway, that's what she's talking about. Thank you, Naomi.
But I mean, like, what I'm trying to say is like, that would never occur to me to play with the system like that and monkey around with like,
why not?
Okay.
It's an interesting way to figure things out, though. That's,
but these things make a difference for a small film such as ours, let's say, for example. It's like if you are doing a sequel for it, right? Wouldn't it be great? We never got to number 1 on like iTunes, unfortunately. We got to like number 3 or number 2 or something like this, right? In the United States. We got to number 1 in other countries, let's say. And no manipulation whatsoever. Like I was just trying to see if we got to number 1, it mean a lot for people who want to invest, for example, in a sequel to say like, well, we got to number 1 on like iTunes, whatever. So that was the idea.
I want to spend a couple of minutes, Naomi, talking about really the wonderful work you did on American Horror Story. You appeared prominently in 2 seasons, Asylum and Freak Show, which was actually my favorite season of the program. And you play this very iconic character, Pepper. The grueling process that you must have gone through in terms of makeup, I believe you had to shave your head. Tell us about what that was like, having to do that every day, all that makeup, all that application.
I mean, I wouldn't have been Pepper without all that. Let's face it, that was part of it. So I was happy to do it because I was actually working as an actress. And if that was if that's what it took, then, it's funny. I have a new one-woman show now called American Horror Story. And it's all about the compromises we make. And, like it's about the whore is not a promiscuous whore so much as a woman who does what she's got to do to get what she wants. And yeah, I had to shave my head, and it was a small sacrifice. Let's face it. Like I'd done a lot worse for a lot less. So it was I was happy to do it. I mean, I'm not going to say I didn't go on some really awkward dates found myself in hot tubs with wearing a wig with a man trying to touch my hair and me, not the hair. So yeah, there it made for some really awkward moments, but
yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, I'm, the same little girl who wanted to be Cruella de Vil and play like the villain. I've always loved extreme characters. Really, I mean, I come from since Northwestern, I spent time at the Groundlings, which is of course a comedy school and theater here in Los Angeles, and you just got to imagine like characters like Elvira or Pat or Pee Wee Herman or I mean, these are all comedic characters, but they're also over the top. And let's face it, Pepper is right. She's right up there with them. I mean, granted, I I had to obviously like calibrate my performance, knowing that this was not SNL. This was, a more grounded, dramatic drama. But at the same time, I mean, let's face it, you could totally put her in a car with Toonsis the cat. You know what I mean? Like she could have been friends with the Coneheads completely. It's just a matter of, again, how I want to, calibrate that performance. There were times when I got comments from, producers and whatnot in passing, like, "Oh, you're hilarious in tonight's episode." And of course I'm like, "Thank you." Like it's not a comedy. So, okay. And actually
Right.
it's hilarious that now there are some amazing bits that wound up on the cutting room floor, which I'm really sorry about. There's my favorite line ever was when, as I'm delivering the baby in Asylum, I pop up from between Grace's legs and I say, "She's crowning." And then my next line, and that's actually in there, but then my next line was, "When I crowned, I shot out like a bullet," which of course you would. Like if you had a aerodynamic head like I did, you would. Like I was literally shaped like a bullet. But anyway, it got a massive laugh from the crew, which is a great sign in a case of a comedy, but in this case, it just didn't work. We weren't shooting a comedy, so it didn't we didn't it didn't actually make it to air, but it was a very special role, a very special time.
Well, I think you did a great job because, you play somebody who has a disability and you have to walk that fine line. You want to do it dramatically, but you don't want to do it in a mocking or disrespectful fashion. You want to make it believable. I thought it was somewhat comparable to what Ernie Hudson did in a great movie from the 1990s, The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. He plays a mentally challenged young man who's really kind of in the middle of the plot. And I thought he was great in achieving that balance, and I thought you were as well. I know Alok's got to go in a couple of minutes, so I want to ask you each a final question. First, Naomi, other than 1BR, what's next for you? Do you have any other horror movies in the offing?
It's funny. The actor's role is often done years before the movie actually comes out. So I'd almost have to go to my IMDb page and say, what do I got? What do I have coming up? Because the fact is, like, I like this Obliterated show that Alok mentioned earlier. We shot in July of last year. So like, again, my part has been done, but it came out today. So, I mean, I almost have to think like, what have I been doing? I mean, this my one woman show is what I have like immediately on the docket. It's going off Broadway in January. I know you're in New York. I know you're not in Manhattan, but if you were to find yourself down that way, we'd love to have you. It's my history of hustling, love letter to AHS fans. We get to see me pre-Pepper, post-Pepper, become Pepper. And so, I mean, listen, as an actress, it doesn't get any more fulfilling than that. I know that it doesn't seem that way for audiences because you have to be one of the like 99 or 200 or 500 or however big the house is. And let's face it, film and television glorifies like, these, I don't know, these 10 lines and sex scene that I had in, this Netflix show that came out today. Whereas this other thing, I have all the lines and that, that's what I want to talk about. But it's all values.
What are the dates for that, Naomi?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. January 23rd through 25th at the AMT Theater in Midtown.
Oh, nice. Do you happen to have a like a promotional poster that you might be able to share with us so I can post it online?
Sure. Maybe Alok, if you'll let me know where to send it, I'll absolutely do so.
Sure.
I would love that. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I should just mention, if people are interested, the website for that is AmericanHorrorStory.com. Tickets are on sale now.
Awesome.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Alok, how about you? What's other than 1BR2? What's next for you?
Well, we're just that's a whole huge production in its own right. So we're pretty much working on that full time right now, trying to get this out to you fine folks by beginning of next year. Hopefully, there's always a good horror movie that comes out in January, as I know from my market research days. So I would love for us to be that big horror movie. Screw Megan, screw whatever Blumhouse is doing. It's gonna be us. We'd like to do it. We'd be so blessed to be that movie, let's say. But yeah. And we want to do it almost worldwide is the other thing too. So we'll be able to hopefully, not have everyone pirate us in India. I'm Indian, so our people pirated the shit out of this movie. So I would like that to not happen this time. Get it to them so they can pay for it in an honest way, and then get it right onto AVOD, where they have to watch commercials. So they can still not have to pay for it in that regard, but they can at least watch some commercials and make us money. So we shall see.
Very good. Our guests have been Alok Mishra and Naomi Grossman, talking about 1BR, but also some of their other film projects as well. Thank you both for being with us. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Naomi and Alok. Thanks also, of course, to my co-host, Tracy Asteria. Great job as always, Tracy. We want to thank everybody for joining us in this Museum of the Macabre, and we hope that you'll join us next time right here in the Ghostly Gallery.